Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Saturday Surprise Show. I'm Devin. With me is Curtis, actually, of all people.
Yeah, what am I doing here?
I know, right? I just found you in the closet and I decided to dust you off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As soon as I shook off the dust and creaked in the old bones and everything was ready to go again.
Yeah. So, no, Cody and Billy are in today, so... Curtis, you're up.
Yeah, perfect.
And I figured just something simple, a talk of gaming difficulty.
Nice.
That, or unless people want to hear about Curtis talk about anime. Since me and Cody have done separate episodes on this.
Right. Yeah.
But no, I was faking game difficulties because I was playing Elden Ring the other day.
Oh, yeah.
And FromSoft is notorious for their difficult games.
Yep.
But I have to say it's a fair difficult.
Yes.
Like, I hate difficult games, if anyone doesn't know why I'm on this topic.
Yeah.
It's because I hate unnecessarily difficult games.
Yep.
For no reason.
And you love your cheat codes to bypass difficulty.
Yeah. I haven't cheated in a game in a long time.
You used to.
Oh, I used to, all over the place.
You used to cheat like a motherfucker.
Yeah. Because I was more interested in the story and plot of a game than the actual gameplay.
You weren't compelled by the challenge part of it so much. This wasn't your thing.
No, I am a simple, casual gamer. I will admit this. I just want to play a game to enjoy it and have a fun story.
Yeah. It's not like you were even bad at them. You just didn't want to engage with that side of it.
No. I didn't understand the point of pulling my hair out playing something that I should be enjoying.
Yes. And if it makes you feel stressed and shitty, then it's clearly not having a good effect. And if you can get around it somehow, then power to you.
Yeah. And then that's why I was like, I played Dark Souls, and I was like, I'm going to hate this, aren't I? Like, this is going to be like the worst thing possible, because this is supposed to be notoriously hard.
Yep.
But I love that series. I love Dark Souls, I love Bloodborne, and I love freaking Elden Ring.
Yeah.
The only one I haven't played is Sekiro.
Yeah.
But, and the reason why is because it's fair difficulty. It's hard, yes, but a lot of the mistakes are your own.
Yes. And it rewards you getting better through repetition.
Yeah, once you understand patterns and how you like move and dodge things, you feel so much better for it.
Yes.
Other than like, oh, there's this bullshit jump with a bird over it, and if you hit the bird, it kills you instantly. But you gotta be do pinpoint accuracy with your jump.
Yeah. It takes what was fun about old games, right? Which is it makes you do challenging patterns, it makes you learn how bosses work. What it does differently than the old games is that it doesn't make you start the whole game over. Yeah. It doesn't send you back 3 stages if you fuck up several times. It doesn't, throw in stupid things like, randomly respawning enemies and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of friendly things about this game, despite its punishing nature, that make it, a lot more tolerable for somebody who wants, to engage with the challenge, but doesn't necessarily want to beat their head against something.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I love character customization. In that game there's no really wrong way to build a character.
Exactly.
Like, obviously, the optimal way is to mid-max and don't be a jack of all trades.
Yep.
You're not going to be a warrior, mage, healer.
Yeah.
But if you make a decent warrior, he's a decent warrior and will carry you through the game.
Yes. Yeah, you can spread yourself too thin, and to be very clear, when I first started playing those games, when they came out 2009, 2010, whenever it was, my first characters were terrible.
No.
Because I was I had the very bad habit of, in every game I played, of trying to do a jack of all trades. And Dark Souls games, or I guess Demon Souls, was the game that disabused me of that notion and said, hey, stop making stupid jacks of all trades and specialize.
Exactly.
Which is honestly way more rewarding than a jack of all trades. Like, the whole psychological aspect behind jack of all trades for me was, but if you don't engage with all the systems, then you'll miss out on something. But when you also try to engage with all the systems, you also miss out on something, which is the joy of, fleshing out a single skill or pushing a pushing a boundary to its maximum in terms of this one class, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. It really helped me expand my horizons, so to speak, in terms of difficulty.
Which is good. I remember my first character, I was like, nah, I like the dex build, so I'm going to be a speedy character.
Yeah.
And then, I was told you should pick 2 stats to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a dex mage, my very first build.
Yeah.
But it did not turn out right because I was too focused on balancing the 2 stats.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, make one your primary and the other one your secondary and focus most on your primary.
Yeah. Yeah, things tend to work out best when you have, like, a very clear plan of, like, building up one stat as high as it makes sense in the early going and then focusing on the other.
Yeah.
That's how I've started to play them a lot more. For me, like, building up, like, the health becomes my primary focus a lot of the times, just because that extra bit of survivability early on is so helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, there's enough about Dark Souls and Elden Ring.
Yeah.
We can do a whole episode on that.
Those games are great springboards for this topic because of the, you know, they came at a time when a lot of people, I think, were feeling that gaming had changed in ways that were sometimes for the worse in terms of, like, what they are focused on. They became a lot more handholdy, which isn't true across the board, to be clear. Like, there were still a lot of games coming out that were difficult in their own way, but there was this sense that games were becoming more cinematic and turning their back on the traditions of, you know, giving you rewarding challenges in gaming. So that's, when those games came along, that was kind of the turning point of that. So a talk-to-talk based on difficulty makes sense to use those as a springboard, is what I'd say.
Yeah, they are a fine line of, yes, we're hard.
Yeah.
We bring the challenge to you,
yeah.
But we're not pull your hair out, throw the controller hard.
Yeah.
They can feel like that if you let them, but if you ever stop and look at the mistakes, it's never a bad game design that killed you.
This game cheats.
Yeah. This game made a boss that's impossible.
Yeah, never is.
Well, in the time of frustration, I understand. You will feel like that.
Yeah, at that point, like, you're probably tilted, and it's best to walk away for a bit. Yeah. And I know it's easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, you're like, one more try.
Right.
But no, it really is better to just stop.
I can't count how many Dark Souls bosses I beat coming back later.
It happens very quickly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever any game is winding you up in terms of difficulty, like stepping away and coming back and being like, wow, that wasn't so hard.
No, it was just, I was exhausted from all the other shit up to this point.
Yeah, and I was so bent out of shape by this frustration of banging my head that I was just not focusing properly. And as it turns out, giving your mind some time to process and come back to it is going to help out a little bit.
So the other thing I want to talk about is difficulty settings in games.
Yeah.
Because I hate when the game developers insult you for choosing the easier paths. Like, here's super easy baby mode.
Doom was very much like that.
Yeah. Doom was like that. The Deadpool game had that. There's a few. I was like, that's unnecessary, guys. Like, I just want to play your game and enjoy it. I don't want to feel bad or like I'm a crappy gamer because of it.
Feel like you're doing a lesser experience.
Yeah.
Understandable. Yeah, Doom will like literally showed like the Doom guy with like a
baby bonnet on. Yeah.
I forget what they even called it. The bottom tier difficulty.
Like taller or something.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good though. Yeah. Stupid.
Like, it's fun, but at the same time, it's like, it's insulting.
Yeah. So given the choice between easy, normal, and hard, would you go with easy most of the time, or do you...
I always start a game on normal.
You start a game on normal?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
want to play the game as the developers intended.
That's usually my approach as well.
Yeah.
There are exceptions. I pretty much never play on easy just because I don't personally like it. Like, I don't find that satisfying.
No.
I need something to bang my head against sometimes, but Most of the time, normal is totally fine for me. Like I don't often find starting with hard is a good idea because you can run into some stupid spikes. Like a lot of difficulty modes really are just tuned around. Like let's inflate the stats, right? So this enemy becomes more of a sponge, or you do less damage, or both.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, you don't know how to parry this enemy or get around him that easily. Like, he's going to be a nightmare. That's why he's hard.
Yeah. And even if you crack the code and you're like, okay, I figured out how to do this boss, but it's still going to take me several more minutes because the health and damage stats are so fucked up.
Yeah.
So that it ends up being unsatisfying in a lot of games to go with hard, I find a lot. So I do find normal is like, if that's what they balance their game around clearly, then I'll go with it.
Yeah.
There are exceptions in terms of like, I'm going to give a really big exception that I've been playing recently. Dragon Quest XI. I picked it up a few years ago and I played it for a while and I kind of bounced off because the default difficulty really just didn't have any pushback at all. Like,
no.
And I don't like steamrolling over things in RPGs. Some people really enjoy like leveling up to the max and like one-shotting things. I'm the opposite of that in RPGs where I want to overcome something that is really giving me a hard time.
Yeah.
And Dragon Quest XI is very much tuned to like give you just experience and easy handouts at every turn. Like stuff becomes almost embarrassingly easy to kill if you fight even a few battles and become slightly leveled up. And that's why I bounced off. Yeah. But I came back to it just a couple months ago and decided to play on the harder difficulty, and I'm having an absolute blast with it. It is becoming one of my favorites of all time. So it's so funny just to see the different experiences you can have by difficulty tweaks.
Yes. I'm trying to think of other, like, my RPG experience is, I have a standard for how I start every RPG.
Yeah.
Which is get to level 10 at the gate,
mm-hmm.
and then don't stop and grind. Because, in my mind, a well-balanced game should be, level 10 should, like, steamroll the earlier areas, but then slowly grind into harder and harder challenges.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you're right, a lot of RPGs do skew hard at the start because you're so underpowered.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I totally get that approach because then, you know, the early stuff should be easy. Like, it should be.
I'm learning your game. I don't need, I don't have the experience to do all your mechanics. My character doesn't even have any skills really to him.
Yeah. And in a meta sense, I have this really weird annoyance where I really hate the idea that I struggled more with a crab in the first beach dungeon than I do with the Demon Lord in the final dungeon. You know what I mean?
No,
it feels like, why did I die 3 times to that crab and kill the Demon Lord on my first try? That feels bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I sure do.
No, I was like, I hate when I start out an RPG and like the first couple enemies were the worst enemies I ever had to deal with.
That sucks.
And then it's like, I got to the Demon Lord, he was nothing.
Yeah, he was kind of embarrassingly easy. Like me and my team of uber-powered gods just kind of steamrolled the guy.
Yeah.
It was a shame. But that crab, man, that crab was tough.
Holy crap, that crab. Yeah. Well, there were epic stories of us versus that crab.
Yeah, it's hilarious, but in terms of the story, it doesn't feel very good.
No.
So, yes, there's considerations like that I also like have it in the back of my mind when I'm doing difficulty stuff. Like, I want stuff that looks tough to feel tough to fight, if that makes sense.
No, I actually understand what you mean by that.
Yeah.
I want boss fights to feel like boss fights.
Yes.
That's my take from not even RPGs, just any game.
Yeah.
Like, when I step into the boss arena, if I slay the boss in like 3-5 hits, I don't feel great.
I really hate it. It's a bad feeling. And it's so weird to say. You're like, yeah, I imagine, I don't know, I shouldn't say most people, but I'm sure a lot of people are like, yeah, I won, I kicked his ass. But for me, it's like, I wanted to see more of what he could do. I wanted to get a feel for what he was capable of. This is nothing.
Yeah,
sucks.
I want to see what the boss can do.
That's a big thing for me. Like, I want to see the attacks and stuff. Like, they put time into, like, animating these cool-looking, flashy attacks. I want to see them, damn it.
Yeah. That's why I don't like Elden Ring's DLC bosses. Because they have these, like, uber attacks at the end of some of their life bars.
Yeah.
But if you're too strong, you will bypass it.
You just blitz past them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, you don't get to see, like, the double moon from Renala or whatever.
Yeah, and apparently, because you were watching me do that fight, apparently she has a move that she didn't even do on me in the attempts that I made on her, so
yeah.
It's weird, yeah.
Yeah, she has a mid-battle maneuver she pulls out.
Yeah, like a fire tornado, did you say?
Yeah, she, swings that fire sword around and it takes a little cyclone around her.
Yeah. Didn't happen for some reason.
Didn't friggin' happen. But she loved using the double moon on you.
She loved that move. Yeah. She loved that moon attack. Yeah.
Okay, so any games that made you just stop because of some stupid difficulty spike or block?
This happened more when I was a bit younger, I think.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple games where I got walled, for sure. Like I said, the DQ11 was a kind of the opposite case where I was feeling so bored by the easiness that I stopped at that point. But in terms of difficulty, where it was too hard for me, there was a couple, actually. Just in sticking to RPGs for the moment, the first one that came to mind for me was Xenogears of all games, which... If I were to go back to that spot where I got stuck, I'm sure it would be nothing. But it was just the way that I built up my mechs. I must have fucked something up horribly when I first played that. I don't know. This would have been 2004 or something.
Yeah.
I must have fucked up something really bad where I could not get past this one mech fight. And no matter how hard I tried, I kept getting stonewalled by it. I really need to go back to that game and see what the problem was.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it was nothing. I'm sure it was just something completely stupid that it's overlooking. But for some reason, that was the first game that came to mind in terms of something that stonewalled me. Yeah, I guess some games you can kind of build yourself up. It's rare that games will let you go so far where you basically screw yourself over in terms of how you build your character wrong, but it can happen.
Yes.
Especially in older games.
Definitely older games.
Yeah. Especially if you're going back to the really older games like a Wizardry or something like that. I guess Wizardry's a little bit weird, but a lot of those old RPGs let you just kind of do what you want, and when they say do what you want, you can build a straight up bad character that sucks and is unable to, comfortably get past pretty much any of the later game stuff. So, yeah. The more complex the character building options they give you, the more that potential there is for you to do something that ends up being a lemon.
Yeah.
So.
No, and I was more thinking outside of the RPGs, any platformer or anything.
Yeah, I was trying to think of anything along those lines.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'd be rentals for sure.
Definitely. Rentals were a mixed bag. If you didn't get the game you wanted, you took a random game and hoped for the best.
Yeah.
That was our world of gaming.
Yeah. It sure was. Could do a whole episode on rentals, I'm sure.
Oh, we could. I think we have.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good topic. I'm trying to think, though, of anything that I owned or played extensively that I got straight up stuck in.
Yeah.
Is there anything for you?
I'm trying to think, too, but I remember the original NES Ninja Turtles.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, totally.
Yeah.
I only rented that one, but, it was a bitch of a game.
I owned it. I only owned 4 NES games. The 3 Mario Bros. And Turtles.
Nice.
So, if I got tired of Mario, guess what I had to play?
Yep. Oh, I know one. I had Bayou Billy.
Oh, boy, yeah, that's a fun one.
That's a hell of a game. So the thing is, I had a Game Genie when I was a kid, and Mr. Game Genie would help me get through Bayou Billy very many times, but I never beat that game legit, let me tell you what.
Yo.
That's a beat 'em up with the most ridiculously overtuned difficulty you can ever imagine. That game is nuts.
No.
People talk about like Battletoads and stuff like that. Bayou Billy is a monster.
Battletoads is like Battletoads is fine with one person. It's when you get a friend going.
Yeah, it's when you get a friend that things become unmanageable.
Yeah.
But you can. It's a repetition learning game. Where the challenges are mostly in terms of memorization.
Yeah.
Whereas Bayou Billy is just unfair. Like, it's just straight up bullshit of, like, these enemies take 1,000,000 hits and can kill you so easily. I'm pretty sure the Japanese original release was way easier than what we got, but I've never played the Japanese release.
Fair.
Yeah. But, yeah. NES games had a lot of, like, complete crazy stuff like that. Like, I love the NES, but, balancing and fair tuning were not exactly priorities. Or actually, maybe they were priorities in that, hey, we're going to make sure you get your quote-unquote money's worth out of this.
Oh, yeah. The quarter sinkers.
Exactly. Quarter muncher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they were all too happy to grind you to dust. And there's definitely games that, like, Bayou Billy was far from an exception. Like, Castlevania 3, they made way harder for the US.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just... And I think... I'm trying to remember if Ninja Gaiden, the original Japanese one, had that same... I think it might have, but Ninja Gaiden 3, I think, added in the limited continues, whereas the Japanese had like, you could just play over and over. Like, it was only the US release that threw in... Oh, you can only continue twice or 3 times or whatever it was.
And then you gotta start all over again.
All over again. Yeah, that's something the games don't do anymore because they're long now.
Yeah.
Back then, it's like, well, you've got this game that lasts an hour total, so we're going to kill you and send you back to the start.
Yeah, that's how we make you play it for more than an hour.
Yep. And then exactly like the quarter muncher term comes from the arcades where we're in order to get our money from you, we're going to make you die repeatedly to these damaged sponge bosses.
Yeah.
Simpsons arcade game is a great example of that, where it sure is fun and it sure is great to look at, but if you've ever fought or watched anybody fight Mr. Burns at the end, that is just straight up unfair shit.
Yeah.
Like, that fight is not fair in any imagination.
Yeah. Speaking of the beat 'em ups, fighters are also have that difficulty curve and spike I hate.
Oh god. I don't like single player fighting games very much, except for a few that, like Soul Calibur and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, in a lot of games, I find that the arcade mode or tournament mode, whatever you want to call it, is always just really not fun to play.
Yeah. The funny you think of Soul Calibur. Remember Soul Calibur 2's final boss, Inferno?
Oh yeah.
That is such a weird boss fight because if you didn't change the settings, every round is a 2 best of 3 rounds.
Yeah.
And then Inferno's not. Inferno is knock me down a bit of health, I'll transform.
Yeah.
I do that 3 times and then I'll die.
Right.
And you don't have to fight me again.
Yep. Yeah.
And I am incredibly hard. I know how, I am the master of whatever I just transformed into.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't stand a chance against this.
Yeah.
I'm a better version of you in every way.
Yeah. If I copy you, you are done.
Yeah.
I know things you don't even know.
I would say fighting game final bosses are the worst kind of difficulty.
Yeah.
Some of those, I haven't even played all of them, but I've seen some of these that are just like beyond the pale in terms of cheap nonsense.
Yeah.
I think a lot of SNK games tend to have really
SNK is notorious for its final bosses.
Really fucking terrible final bosses.
Yeah.
It just when you're within the limits of a fighting game, and it feels like the computer is cheating after a certain point, right?
Yeah.
It's not something that you get better at through memorization. A lot of the times those fighting game bosses feel like dumb luck.
Yeah.
As much as anything.
It's just they're reading your inputs. They just seem to know how to block and move.
Yeah. That is just not fun to do.
Yeah. And they know the perfect time to pull off their super.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it gets unfair. And I was like, I love fighting games, but I hate when the final boss is just unfair.
Yeah. I remember watching you fight, is it Eno or Ino in one of the Guilty Gear games?
I know in Guilty Gear XSA or something.
Yeah, I remember watching you fight her for like an hour. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this is stupid.
Yeah, I was like, this went to bullet hell territories.
Yeah, like the patterns she was throwing out, it's just like, what are you even supposed to do here?
Yeah. Pray for the best, I guess. We beat her, but I was like, I beat her with my best character. I was like, if I wanted to do the arcade mode to see everyone's ending, and I'm not good with some characters, I'm not seeing those endings.
Like, I just don't. That doesn't appeal to me at all.
No, I don't get that either.
I'd love to see those endings, but the process of getting there would feel too much like a chore. Like, I have no interest in that stuff. It's why I never got into fighting games really at all, because I'm not much of a multiplayer guy to begin with, and any of the single player stuff just felt like the worst tedious stuff to me.
Yeah. I'm glad fighters are now focusing on both the single and multiplayer.
Yeah, it seems like they've gotten a lot better with that stuff.
But with that, though, I see the time, so we're going to have to call it here. So thank you all very much for listening in.
Yeah, could prattle on about that one forever, but I think we touched on some cool stuff.
I think we got it pretty nailed down.
Yeah.
If there's a sequel to this, we'll let you know.
Indeed.
But until then, have a good one, guys.
So long.